Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And no, I'm not alone today. No, I'm with the man, the myth, the legend himself, the guy with the initials on his hat. That's an ego trip right there, if you ask me. But in all seriousness, he's probably the guy that has the least amount of ego that I've ever met. That's Lyle Leong Jr. Lyle, how you doing, my guy? It's pretty crazy that you made yourself your own logo and put it on a hat.
Hey man, blessed to be in your presence. When you do a podcast with, the future, you gotta kind of, fake it till you make it. So they say if you're not good, you at least gotta look good. So I try my best to keep up on my part and it's the only way I know, to look good. I learned that a long time ago. I rode the pine for a long time, but I'll tell you one thing, I look good on that sideline,
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to. You have to,
without a doubt.
Um, I always judge people, Lyle, that had sleeves on that weren't starters, but
Mhm.
lucky for you, you wore sleeves and you were a starter. So no judgment on my part, my guy. Um,
Hey,
on today's
appreciate that.
podcast, we'll talk about the Texas Tech spring game. What does
Oh
it
yeah.
mean, if anything? Because let's just be real, it's super vanilla, but some interesting points to talk about. We'll also talk about potential Tyree Wilson landing spots as the
Mm.
draft is about 48 hours away at the time of this recording. You're probably hearing this on Tuesday, April 25th. I'll give my pick. Lyle will give his pick, and we have to do this with no trades because listen, we can't predict the future. Shoot, I don't even know if the Houston Texans know what the hell they're doing. Anyway,
Mm.
we'll also talk about Joey McGuire and how he talked about the QB1 competition, and then we'll update y'all in terms of who is currently in the portal right now for Texas Tech football after the spring game. Of course, a lot of exit interviews were conducted on Monday, April 24th. So we'll talk about that. But Lyle, you were at the game in since the last time we've talked. You've actually given a Letterman jacket to Baron Morton, correct?
Yes, sir, man. That's one of the cool things. Coach McGuire and Antonio Huffman, former player and chief of staff over there, man. They do an awesome thing and where they have older guys and it's weird to call myself an older guy, but older guys kind of present a jacket to the younger guys and it's one of the coolest things I ever got to be a part of. And they have a dinner and they read it off like a draft and just the connection that Coach McGuire allows us to come back and be a part of their program, and the things that they're doing, man, was second to none. How they set up everything, and just getting to know those players, getting to go to practice, seeing what they're doing. Um, I think that's the change. We talk about this in our podcast all the time, but it's a good feeling when you're an alumni and you're felt like you want it back. They want you to be there, and you get to experience that because, like you said, you don't understand as an athlete. When older players came back, definitely appreciate seeing them and everything they've done, but you don't truly appreciate the things that you get to be a part of till it's over in a sense. So just coming back and seeing the stuff built, seeing the experiences that they get to go through from the shakes to their snacks to their meals to the facilities that's going up. It's just a really cool thing to know that you got to be a part of it and help build it. And it also gives you a realization of those that came before you and built it to what you have. So funny story, I was complaining about, they got NIL to the giving the kids a hard time, saying, "Man, y'all got NIL money, y'all get paid a lot." And saw an older gentleman, he's a quarterback. He told me that they got $12 a month. So I was like, that's one of the things I was like, let me shut up and enjoy the money that I got and where we got to live. But he said they got $12, and that was enough to get them food, and that was enough to do their laundry, and that's I guess Coach Dykes, I think that was his coach. That's all that Coach Dykes said they needed. And so I was like, man, I'm
Man,
grateful, but $12. So it was an awesome experience.
you can barely get a foot long at Subway now for that.
Man, a Gatorade, $6. So
That's crazy.
I was like,
That's cool though.
man,
I saw that. I was happy to see and I think that was something this program was missing. I don't want to throw shade at the other coaching staff that was here prior, but it just felt like that camaraderie from the alumni base in terms of the former players was something that was missing at scale. Maybe it just wasn't presented to us, but I think it's something that needs to be presented to the general public and needs to actually happen because, again, you're right. Like we're not here today if it isn't for guys like you, Crab, uh, Harrell, the list goes on and on, right? So like I think that just because you're no longer on the field, and I think that's a good thing for you because I've seen you walk around, Lyle. I think it's good that you're not on the field taking hits anymore,
Yeah,
just from a hip
uh,
standpoint,
that's a
got a
great point.
longevity of the hips.
Yeah, it's been a short career for me.
Yeah,
Short
well,
career for me.
it's been a non-existent career for me. So there you go. At least one of us had one. But I think it's one of those deals. You still have to pay homage to those guys, and I think it's cool that he's bringing you guys back in a time that is so. I don't think we've seen a transition like this in Texas Tech football, where it's obviously social media helps, and we get to see it a
Mhm.
lot more. But just from a investment standpoint in the program, like financially,
Yeah,
we haven't seen this, and obviously NIL is a big part of that, what Cody Campbell and that collective is doing, but also just from a sure, like, I mean, shoot, there's multiple cranes up right now. Like, like at Jose
yeah,
TT Stadium, like we haven't seen this before in terms of how much construction and renovation are going on in the stadium. It's going to be almost brand new in a way. And that doesn't just start with Joey McGuire, and he'll be the first
right.
one to tell you that. And I'm sure he said it. Like, it doesn't just start with him. This starts, from years and years and years ago. Like the first Texas Tech team, this was a building up process to where we are today. And it just so happens that Joey McGuire and those guys get to reap the benefits almost in a way. But it's still cool to have you guys back there and actually interact with these guys because it just felt like that was something that was missing. And I think great programs, and I truly mean that, great programs. Not every program does that, but I think
Mhm.
it's really, really impactful with a school like Texas Tech that is so community driven and so alumni driven, to have that happen with guys like yourself and countless other former Texas Tech football players.
And I think two things on that too is I think we've had the fan base.
For
I think
sure.
we've had it for forever. So I just think that he found a way to get everybody to come together because like I said, you can go anywhere in the world and somebody from Texas Tech is there. And that's what I learned. I've gone everywhere. I have this job because I went to Texas Tech. And it's everywhere. But I think that they found a way just to bring everybody together. We've been separated so long. So I think that's what he did a good job of bringing it together, and getting it to go. And then secondly, so just with the coaches, man, he treats coaches like say high school coaches come in there, they get the same love I get, which to me is awesome. I think that at the end of the day, he has to come talk to these coaches, and these coaches have a big part on where these kids go. So I don't think people understand how important that is. And for some of these guys, I got to be a part of hanging out with some of these coaches. Like to go stand in the stadium with 60,000 is life changing to some people. So, that's probably been one of the most humbling things to me is getting to walk in there with some of those coaches and they're being like, "Oh my gosh!" And to me, I'm like, "Oh, this is small compared to some of the places we've been." So it's been very humbling, but at the same time, I don't think people understand the power of what he's doing as far as when it comes to that. I guarantee you, if a kid has the opportunity to go here, the coach is going to encourage them to go. Of course, they're going to tell the kid go what's best for you, but it helps when you can hit up a coach and stand on the sideline and watch the horse run out, and uh, they fully get to understand what's going on. Because, like I said, as a coach, a lot of these kids are our kids. We spend more time with
Yeah.
them than we do our own. So when you get to go experience it, and like I said, for me, I was blessed enough to experience. So I know what Texas Tech is about. But when McGuire lets these other guys come in and see what it's about, they're like, hey, that's a good spot. So I really think that's the number one thing that he does that people are sleeping on that don't understand. You go to practice, you see a bunch of coaches, and I know people are like, man, these guys have say, and they change these kids' lives. Which one word of advice like, hey, that's a great school, can make a kid go there. So I think they've done a great job, and then getting alumni kids. They got Vincent Meeks' son. They've done
Mm-hmm.
a good job of
Aiden,
getting it. I know they're trying to get Paul Williams' son, played linebacker for us.
Micah.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean they're hitting all the right spots, hitting the West Texas kids, hitting the alumni kids. And like I said, I they got one, I'm hoping they get Paul's son, but I mean they're hitting all the right avenues and things that Like you said earlier, we were talking, it's just a lot to cover. So sometimes you miss stuff with 100+ kids, but they're
Oh
doing a
yeah.
good job hitting every advantage that they have. And I think it's already started, but I think it'll continue to grow, you know.
Yeah, and we'll talk about recruiting on here, but I was telling Lyle earlier, that's a job in itself. There's some dudes that know that way better than us, but I can guarantee you this from an X's and O's standpoint, it's going to be hard to beat any other Texas Tech podcast because of the guy that's on the screen with me, not because of me. I'm just kind of here to navigate things. This guy knows X's and O's in this offense better than anybody else. I can guarantee you that. So that's a big reason to listen. But Lyle, let's jump into the spring game because you were there. I watched it on ESPN Plus. By the way, ESPN Plus is still just garbage, but it's fine. It was a spring game. I didn't expect much. And before we get into this and before we talk about some guys and some position groups that stood out, we have to say this, and I know you agree with me. This is super vanilla, right? Like, if you think this is the offense Tech is going to run, you're wrong. If you think this is the defense Tech is going to run, you're wrong. Are there basic principles to it? Yeah. I mean, they're not just going to go out there and just free ball it, but like overall, this is as basic vanilla as you can get. This is great value vanilla ice cream here, people. This is as basic as it can get. They made ice cream, Lyle, and they put one drop of vanilla in there. That is it.
Yeah.
But some guys that stood out. CJ Baskerville. I've been trying to tell people since he got recruited from San Diego State. I've talked to multiple coaches on this staff, and they told me from the jump, when I tweeted out, I thought that he had a good chance at starting. I had multiple coaches on the Tech staff tweet at me in my DMs and say, no, it's not an if. He will be the starting safety at the star position for Texas Tech. And he's a dude. Remember the name. He is that guy, and the tape bears it out. He is really, really good. Him and Rabbit, I think, make a lethal combination in the secondary. And Baskerville is taking over for Muddy Waters, who, by the way, Muddy Waters getting a little bit of NFL love. Didn't get invited to the combine, any of that stuff, but getting a little bit of NFL love. Lyle, I thought other guys in the secondary that stood out were a true freshman and Brendan Jordan, calling BJ number 27. He's the backup for CJ Baskerville. I think as a true freshman, he can be a difference maker for Texas Tech on the two deep. And that's saying something, right? Like, better than anybody else. If you're a true freshman, I mean, you're just trying not to be blinded by the lights and what's going on, right? Like, you're just trying not to get in anybody's way. You're not trying to step on any toes. You're just trying to basically stay in a lane where nobody calls you out for anything, right? Like, and to actually be called out for something good, I think says a lot about Brendan Jordan and where he is currently in his development. He'll back up another initial name in CJ. And let's be honest, Lyle, initial names are where it's at. You know what I mean? Like, initial names are the best. I'm not biased or anything at all. At
And
all.
double last names and double last
Yeah.
names.
Yeah. Completely unbiased. Completely unbiased. That's just a personal preference take on my part. We talked about it before we started recording. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Defense in general, right? It stood out. They got some dudes. Let's just say that. They've got some dudes. And that's after losing a guy who we'll talk about here in a little bit that's going to be drafted in the top 10. That's being conservative. I think it's going to be higher. And arguably one of the biggest dudes that Texas Tech has ever had in Tyree Wilson. But they've got a bunch of dudes on that defense, Lyle.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing I went with one of my good friends, worked with him, Marlon Wynn, went to go watch the game, and the biggest thing that stood out to us is just the size. I think Texas Tech has always been kind of the smaller group in the teams when it comes to Texas and OU and Kansas State and those type places. And this year, I think as an overall, we look the part. We looked Power Five-ish, and especially on that defensive side. Offense too, but defense, we looked huge. So I think that's one of those things, just seeing the difference off top when getting there. Seeing the difference was, number one, amazing. And these guys are not only big, they can move. That's the thing McGuire really wants is speed. They talk about it, Blanchard. They want speed. And so they got huge guys that can run. And I think the other position groups that really stood out to me was the O-line. I think they're much improved. Got some size. I thought they did a good job.
They're healthy.
Yeah, they're healthy. And then the quarterbacks, I thought they did a good job too. So that's the thing people got to realize is when you do spring, you know every play that the offense is doing. The defense knows every play. So really it's a like RC said, it's vanilla, but at the same time, every person on that defense can look over at Kitley's signals and know what the play is.
Yeah.
That's just a part of the game. I mean, I can look at Kitley signals and know them now, and I played 20 years ago, so that's just a part of it. You got to see some kids, showcase themselves, but at the same time, you can't put too much stock in it. Had some guys that didn't play, some NFL guys that didn't play, and like I said, they had some guys that played very limited snaps, got in and got out, and so I thought it was a good day. I think spring game is really more for the fans to come out and have a good time. And I thought I saw a lot of recruits out there that came, some good looking
Hmm.
recruits. They had the Letterman down there in the end zone. So, like I said, it's just a whole overall gig of how they're doing that spring game that brings in more. Because, like I said, those kids have done this every day for I don't know 15 practices, however many
Yeah.
they've done the same plays. So I thought it was overall, but the biggest take I got from it is not X's and O's, but just the size and the speed of the game. I think this is one of the bigger teams that Texas Tech has ever had. So, I remember when we played, our D linemen were 6'1". I'm seeing 6'5", 6'6" guys out there.
The guy I'm about to bring
6'4"
up. Yep.
linebackers. Yeah, and that's usually when we play Texas and OU is what when I go against those, and then come back to practice, I'm going against 5'10" linebackers. So I think the overall size, speed, um, um, was the biggest thing I noticed, as well as some of those vet players that just know, in the quarterbacks, you could tell they're vet players by the checks that they're making, just the way they carry themselves out there. And like I said, I think that's the most important position. I say that every year. If you look at teams that win the Super Bowl, it's usually they got the best quarterback. And
Yep.
that's why Patrick Mahomes has won the last however many been to the
Yeah.
AFC Championship 6 times, whatever. And so I think that's a crucial. I think defense is going to make plays, but we live in a day and age where it's damn near impossible to stop any offense. And so I think that they got a good job of tools, and I think they did a good job. I think they can do both too. When we go play a SEC team, we're big enough to where we can stop the run. If we, back in our Big 12, we're fast enough to be able to play the
Sure.
pass. So I think that's been, that's one of those things. I think they're kind of ahead of the game because we're going to get to the playoffs and play a SEC team. They're going to put Alabama, they're going to put Georgia in, national championship game last year with Georgia. I mean, they were destroying the D line all the way down the field. So
Yeah.
I think that's when it comes down to those key. We always talk about D line, O line. That's the key to any game. They get the least amount of love, but they're the most important. I think that's where they've made the most improvement is seeing guys out there. And, that's one thing when we were really good. I got my guy that works with me 6'6", and here's the smallest one. So it's
Casual.
it's good
Casually
to see
6'6",
getting back to that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. So they look good
Yeah.
though, and they're doing a
Awesome.
great job.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
Just casually
got
six
in the
six.
huddle, man. When you look up in the huddle, like I tell people, man, there's no better
Wow,
feeling
that's what I'd be
than
doing to you,
stepping
and
in
you're
the
like
huddle.
6'1". I'd
Man,
be doing that to you. I promise you, I'm gonna have neck problems when I'm older, just by talking to normal people. I
hey,
promise you.
and the worst part is you got to break out the huddle though and go back out by yourself. But in there, it's like your safe haven. Then Graham used to tell us, hustle out there, you're by yourself. And I'm
You
like,
wouldn't know I was in the huddle. You wouldn't know I was in there.
oh,
I
brother, if they knew
disappeared.
I was in there, they knew you was in there too, brother. Trust.
No, 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 no. No, don't do that. Don't do that now. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I promise you though, you talked about the defensive line, and that's the thing that really does stand out to me. A guy that's had a really good spring, Joey McGuire talked about him multiple times, is Blake Burris. From the Crooked Eye, if you don't know where that's from, Irving, Texas,
Hmm.
some really cool Texas Tech alumni have come from from Irving, Texas. Not gonna name any names or anything, but like Grant McCaslin, one of the guys you're listening to. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. But no. And a couple other guys I wanted to talk about before we talk about quarterbacks real quick. Ty Canna, he stood out to me this spring. Linebacker. That's the position I'm watching the most because I think that can go a lot of ways, right? You got guys like Isaac Smith, who made a name in the bowl game, who I'm really interested to see how they use him. Josiah Pierre moved to Mike linebacker now. Interested to see how that works out now that Kosai Eldridge officially will not be back. He did not get that extra year of eligibility. When it comes to the wide receiver position, Loic Fungi, please. Like, the only thing you got to ask right now is just stay healthy, my guy, and it'll happen for you because this guy is super talented. I think this, Lyle, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here. Disagree with me if you want. If every wide receiver is healthy, right, Loic Fungi is your best wide receiver. I think he's the most dynamic one. 6'4", 215, runs a 4.45-ish in that range. He's dynamic. The thing is every year he's been at Tech, he's had a nagging injury. He's just got to stay healthy. On the kicking game, Gino Garcia looks like he's got that locked up as the main field goal guy. Obviously, you know, the punter is going to be Austin McNamara, who came back an All-American type punter. And then they're still trying to find a kickoff specialist, but hopefully they can find one over the summer. But those are the guys that really stood out. And you mentioned the quarterback position, and Joey McGuire was pretty adamant about it in the sense of, hey, this is a competition. Morton has put on 12 to 15 pounds. He told a story about how he went up to the strength and conditioning coach, gave him a nice pat on the tush, and said, 217, my guy, meaning he's 217 pounds. That's pretty solid for Baron Morton.
Solid.
Chuck is healthy. He had his best spring, according to himself, and I think that this can't go underrated. This is the first time in Chuck's college career that he has had the same offensive coordinator in back-to-back years. That can't be understated. And this man has been in college since I was in diapers. At least it seems like it anyway. Really, it's only been 6 years, which I guess could be true to some people with how I act sometimes, but it's fine. It's whatever. But again, that's a big deal. But I think when it comes down to it, Lyle, we've talked about this, and then we'll get to the Tyree Wilson predictions to wrap up the show with a little bit of portal talk as well. We'd both be shocked if both are healthy and Tyler Shuck isn't the day one starter up in Laramie, Wyoming, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah, like, I mean, both are really talented. I'm not trying to, you know, belittle Baron Morton.
Yeah, I love
but
you.
Tyler Shuck could have a year, people, if he stays healthy. He could be really, really good behind that offensive line. Lyle talked about a little bit. They're healthy now. They've added some guys. I think another big factor is they put guys in spots, I think, that are better for them to succeed. You think about it, Monroe Mills is the left tackle now. Got Cole Spencer as the left guard. Rusty Stats. Both Cole and Rusty were WKU transfers from Kitley days up there with the Hilltoppers. They'll be at left guard and center. Then you moved Dennis Wilburn from center, who was arguably your best lineman last year, to right guard, to his more natural position. And then you have Caleb Rogers at right tackle. You basically flipped Monroe Mills and Caleb Rogers from last year, which I like quite a bit. And I think you got a little bit more depth there now. Now you did lose some guys to the portal, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, and in fact, let's talk about that now, Lyle, in terms of the portal. And people are freaking out a little bit. I don't think there's anything to freak out about. This is natural, right? Like, after the spring game, you're going to lose guys just because they didn't win a position battle. It's the natural reality of just college sports right now with the portal. So you lose a guy like Jack Tucker on your offensive line. You lose another guy, Eric Gray, to the portal. Trevor Roberson from Wellington, Texas, the 6'11", 355-pounder. And then you got Cade Briggs also transferring out. You got Huck Graham, who I thought could potentially make an impact this year. But those true freshmen came in and just dominated from the jump. You lose a guy like Cameron White. You got Macy in the portal as well. And then Trey Cleveland, he transferred a while back. This was earlier this year. He went to North Texas, while Massey followed Coach Patterson out to ACU. But I mean, this is natural. I don't think there's anything to freak out about in terms of losing guys to the portal at this time of year. This is what happens after spring games, right? Like, I mean, people are going to transfer after spring games if they don't win a position battle or they don't like where they're at on the depth chart.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, that's one of those things, a new day and age, man. And that's one of those things that with the new coaches, man, that that's just a part of it. Kids are gonna get offered more, and I'm sure they're being tampered And then you got kids that
Everybody's
just,
doing it. Yep.
you saw Dion, this spring 13 kids transfer. I mean, that's just a part of the game.
17. It's up to
17.
17 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild.
So I mean, that's just a part of the game nowadays. It sucks because I think that's what made Coach Leach so good is the way that he could, be tough on us and we had nowhere to go. And that I think that's what made us good. That's what, kind of made us the people we are today because I mean, you couldn't put your name in the transfer, you could transfer portal, you couldn't go home, you couldn't do any of that. So I think it's just a different day in the game if a kid feels like he's not valued. No matter how good of a job Coach Kit and Coach McGuire do, DeRuiter, they want to go where they feel and someone's going to value them. So nowadays, it's just it's always going to be people are going to leave if they feel like they should be in a certain situation, and they got to understand it's a bigger picture. And like I said, it took for me to get to this position to kind of understand that because there's so many moving pieces that
Yeah.
go on to that. And as a 18-year-old, I can't sit here and say my first year when I sat on the bench behind Crab and Eddie Brenton and I felt like I was better than Eddie Brenton. But if I couldn't say that when I was 18 years old, I didn't say, "Hey, Leach, I'm leaving because I feel like I'm better than Eddie Brenton."
Yeah.
But that's just one of those things that I had to grow. I actually learned a lot from him, and he did a fantastic job while he was here. But like I said, if I was 18 years old in this day and age, I would have missed out on learning behind two great guys that did a great job at that university. So I think that's one of those things that as fans, we got to understand it's not Coach McGuire's not going saying, "Hey, man, you're not gonna play. Okay, that's fine, leave." That's not the type of person he is, or
Yeah. I mean,
the type of person
it's,
we have. It's just part of the game,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those deals where it's, and I don't fault guys for it. You only get a certain amount of time to play college football.
Mhm.
Everybody makes decisions for themselves. There's that old saying, the grass ain't greener on the other side. It's like, it's all about perspective, man. Like, I mean, for you, for example, I could go into the portal and I could want something completely different than you want, right?
Right.
Like it's all about perspective. And, sometimes it's, hey, I want more money. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's just, hey, I want to be closer to home. I want to be closer to
Right.
family.
Right.
Hey, I may, and who knows what's going on in their personal life outside of it. I think the perfect example right now is a guy like Damian Collins in the basketball transfer portal. He was a former 5-star recruit transferring from Kentucky. Everybody's like, "Whoa, why are you transferring from Kentucky? You're going to play big minutes next year."
Right.
You got to know that there's more stuff going on off the court. He lost his dad and his grandfather in the past
Mhm.
9 months.
Yeah.
He's transferring to be closer to home, people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's one of those deals where I'm not saying that's everybody's case. Some guys are just like fed up with coaches, right? Like that's just the reality of it, like you were talking about. But I also think that there's so much more to it. And I'm all about players having options. It doesn't mean they're going to make the right decisions. You better be listening to the right people, right? Like
Amen.
that's something that's big.
Yeah.
I'm all for people having the options because coaches have options. What's stopping a coach from taking another job, right? I'm all about it. But you better make sure that you're making the right decision because, again, your thought process is, I only have so much time to play
Yep.
college football. Well, you only have so much time to play college football. And if you make a wrong decision again,
Yeah.
see ya. It's that simple, right? So, I'm all for it. I'm all for guys making the right decisions for themselves in that moment. Maybe it doesn't work out in the end. But hey, I don't think anything is personal because again, it's business.
No.
It is what it is. It's so much more bigger than a business than it was even 10 years ago, right? But the
Yeah.
portal has complicated things on a magnitude of levels. But I do think at the same time, I'm not a hater of the portal, but I don't love everything about it either, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I just kind of wish they had rules and regulations and you
The
know,
NCAA is just there, Lyle. I don't even know what the
yeah.
NCAA does, to be honest.
I'm good with all that. Like, I'm good with everything other just rules, tampering, because, like I said, sometimes as a young kid, when, if someone would slid in my DMs and offer me two, well, I'm not even gonna lie, $500, I might have transferred. So I just think like when it's tampering, like that's the only problem I have with it.
Sure,
And then a limit. You gotta limit this thing. And I know
sure.
everybody's trying to go, but I mean, if you transfer 4 times, I
Yeah.
think that's too much. I think they just need to regulate a little
They
bit. You
kind of
get
have one now.
one transfer, you know what I'm saying? But then it makes kids really make that decision. Hey, you get one transfer. So it's no jumping here to here. You get one time to transfer.
Yeah.
Think, if tampering, if anyone tampers, man, it should be suspension of that coach. Because like I said, it's not only are you tampering with their decisions, but with kids' life. Because as a young kid, when you bring money into it, it clouds all judgment. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
for
Like
sure.
I
You
got
could
my
potentially
scholarship
take care
check
of
and
your family.
spent it on Jordans and going to the
Yeah.
club. So, when someone comes and offers that, I just feel like it takes away from a kid's decision versus, once he puts his name in transfer, you get one time, then you better make the right decision. And it's just stuff like that. Like I know kids that's transferred 5 times, and I'm like, I didn't even get 5 years to play. I got 4,
Yeah.
and you dudes have been to five different schools. So, just some rules would be cool.
Yeah. Speaking of a guy that made the right decision when he transferred, Tyree Wilson
Mm.
went Texas A&M, obviously Red Raider, wears that scarlet and black with pride now. He's going to get drafted here, Lyle, in the next just over 48 hours at the time of this recording. He has a chance, Lyle, to be the second highest drafted Texas Tech Red Raider of all time. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to potentially make you look bad. I apologize in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the guy that Tyree Wilson cannot pass in terms of the highest drafted Red Raider of all time?
The sack machine from San Antonio.
Who?
Uh, um, I
You
forgot
thinking
his
of
he was a
Rivera?
sack. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, 21st overall. Nope. There's been four guys drafted higher than him.
Parker. Parks.
Parks. Yep. Number one. Dave Parks, 64.
Dave
In
Parks. I knew it.
1964, he went first overall to the 49ers.
Hey, and let me say this real quick before you go. Sorry to cut you off. But
No, go ahead.
that's how great Texas Tech has been though, as far as honoring the people. Because he's in the locker room. That's how I know that. I really wouldn't know that other than going to the locker room every day.
Yeah, with the they
Yeah.
have like things showing it off.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
in the locker
that's what
room.
you're
So
supposed to do.
yeah. It's a lot of schools don't do that though, brother.
I know. Yeah, but Tyree, I've seen him projected as high as number 2 to the Texans. Right now, odds are saying he's going number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. Lyle, I want to hear where you think Tyree Wilson will land. And I think you're looking at mock drafts right now. I can see it in your eyes. You're looking at mock drafts and stuff right now. You don't got a lot of the people on YouTube, Lyle. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I had to
And that's
look at
okay. That's okay. Research is
I had to
cool.
look at the order of the draft to
Sure,
see.
sure.
Okay.
I
I
got you.
think he goes sixth to the Detroit Lions.
I'm not gonna lie to you. If that happens, Lyle, absolutely spicy. Him and Aiden Hutchinson,
I know.
that would be sicko type stuff. I'll say this. If it stands as it is right now, right? Like there's no trades, which is dumb. We all know trades are gonna happen. I think there is no world, legitimately a 0% chance he is available at number 6. 0.
Wow. You
I
think he
I
goes number
don't
two?
see it. I think I don't think he gets past number 5 at worst. I think Seattle takes him because he's exactly what Pete Carroll loves. But if you ask me right now, as the draft currently stands, because correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking at the order, right? It
Mhm.
goes Panthers, Texans, Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Lions, Raiders, Falcons. And then at 9, we have, hold on, Chicago, because they traded with the Carolina Panthers. And then 10 is the Eagles, and then Titans at 11. The only reason I know the teams at 1 through 10 is because Titans are at 11.
Right.
But I would be unequivocally shocked if he gets past 5 at this point. I think if you ask me right now, again, 2 days before the draft, he is the number 1 defensive player taken. And I think when it comes down to it, I think this is going to shock people. And I'm actually changing my answer right now because I have Arizona written down. I don't think he gets to Arizona. I think he goes number 2 overall to the Houston Texans.
Mm. I don't doubt that by any means, but I just feel like they got a lot that they need to get fixed. And defensive end,
100%. Well, it's mostly, and we'll wrap it up
They
here.
need a
It's
quarterback. They got Mills. It's not
oh,
it.
jeez, trust me, I watch them. They're awful.
Not it.
They got a giraffe playing quarterback right now with Davis Mills. But D'Amico Ryans comes from the 49ers. They build with the defensive line and the offensive line. I think that's where they're going to go because they're not in love with any quarterback. I know I'm going crazy and saying number 2. I don't think he gets past number 5, though, to say the least. But he is, when it comes down to it, this is what I'm saying, Lyle. Tyree Wilson will be the second highest drafted Red Raider of all time. Because right now the second highest actually came the year after Dave Parks, which was in 1965, which was Donnie Anderson. Everybody knows Donnie Anderson, one of the GOATs in Texas Tech athletics. He went number 7 to Green Bay. So if he's between 2 and 6, which I think he will be the second highest drafted Texas Tech Red Raider of all time, which is absolutely insane, but a true testament to if you make the right decision in the portal, Lyle, things can go your way. A lot has to happen for that to happen, but you got to make the right decision first. Lyle, where can the people follow you on Twitter? You're saying, by the way, before you say that, Detroit Lions number 6.
Yes, sir.
For Tyree Wilson. There you go. All right. Where can the people follow you on Twitter, my guy?
Hey, they can follow me at Coach LLEONG on Twitter, and you can follow the GOAT RC at
RCMB323, and I changed it up on the fly, people. I got him going number 2 overall to the Houston Texans. I believe D'Amico Ryans is going to draft a defensive lineman, and then they're going to see if a quarterback falls and move from 12, because remember, they got 2 picks. If a quarterback falls to, say, like 7, they make a trade to move up and get their guy. That's kind of what I think happens. But he's Lyle.
My brother, spicy.
I want all the chaos. I want all of it, unless the Titans somehow trade A.J. Brown again on draft night, and then I'll cry in a bathroom.
Wow. Yeah, that was bad.
I'm not saying I did that while I was out in Vegas covering the draft last year, but I'm not saying that I didn't do that. Anyway, he's Lyle. I'm RC. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the Back to 12 podcast. If you want the latest news when it comes to Texas Tech football, the breakdown of the X's and O's, I promise you, there's nobody like this guy breaking down the X's and O's during the season, and I'm here too, so that's cool. So again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're not too far from 8K, people. Join the fastest growing and most interactive Texas Tech community here on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button for the Back to 12 podcast channel.